and do a roll call.
All right, roll call. Vice President Diamond.
Here.
Director Hetherington is absent. President Odette.
Here.
Director Rolfe.
Here.
Director Stevens.
Here.
Let's see, no pledge, roll call, special order of business. Looks like we don't have a COVID-19 update.
Yeah, I took that off last month. Maybe I'll just, we're in pretty good shape where I think everyone's looking forward to the 15th of June. We're working through that with our employees and we've pretty good vaccination rate with our employees. And so we're hoping by the 15th, we'll be ready to open more fully, but we're pretty much fully operational right now. And so I can keep doing those COVID updates, but I think the airport's working pretty well when it comes to COVID. I should thank Lauren and Stacy, who've done a great job through the whole pandemic, helping us, stay up to speed and up to date and not get out of compliance. And they've done a really, really wonderful job, and all the staff that have listened and followed. That's good.
Awesome. You want to tell us about Stacy's?
Yeah. So Stacy was successful in achieving her certified international safety manager. So that was she's been working on that a little while, passed the test, and good to her for getting that done. And as we all know, she takes that function. She's on this call, but she takes that very serious and does a great job for us both in safety and security. So congratulations.
So Stacy, turn on your camera so we can see you and smile at you.
Good going, Stacy.
Yeah, nice work.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
She got a big plaque too, right by her desk. So that's good.
Well, maybe someday we'll come in and see it.
Yeah.
After June 15th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Congrats.
Thank you, Stacy.
All right, let's see. I don't have any agenda modifications. Anyone else? I did not hear about any. Okay. Public comment. Members of the public may make comments at this time on any items not appearing on the agenda that are of interest, blah, blah, blah. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Then let's do the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything?
I do. I want to pull item 3.
Item number 3, approval of final contract for Midwest. Okay. Then, should we approve the rest?
I move we approve 1, 2, and 4.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
Director Hetherington is absent. President Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, David.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I have public comment from Mr. Bill Celine on Measure T, which is in consent. Would you like to read it? I'm going to read it. Are you guys okay with that? Yeah?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
All right. Directors, as you may know, I am the off-duty fire chief of the Truckee Fire Protection District and helping on the campaign for this important Measure T in my off time. In 2016, the fire district completed a community wildfire protection plan with stakeholders and community input. The plan outlined a number of fuel reduction projects that should be completed in areas in the wildland-urban interface in our community. A number of land managers, like the airport district, have done a significant amount of fuel reduction work. However, there is much more to do, and cost has been the most significant barrier. The fire district has consistently applied for grants, but has only had limited success, slowing the pace and scale necessary to make a significant impact on wildfire safety. Measure T would create an annual community wildfire protection fund that would be used specifically for things like removing dry brush, dead trees, and other fire hazards, adding fire breaks where necessary, supporting defensible space work, improving emergency evacuation routes, and providing homeowners with easy and inexpensive green waste disposal options. All of the money from the tax would be spent locally for wildfire prevention efforts, have an 8-year sunset, and be monitored by Citizens Oversight Committee. An exemption would also be available for low-income property owners. I'm confident that this is the next step in creating a fire-resilient community, and it will have an impact on reducing the possibility and intensity of wildfire in our area. I appreciate the TTAD board's consideration of supporting this important measure. Respectfully, Mr. Bill Saleen.
I don't know whether I need to say this, but just to put it on the record that I'm working to pass that measure. So I'm working with them on that campaign. So in case there's just as a disclosure.
Okay. So we still have a motion on the table and we need a roll call.
The consent items, I think we already voted on.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty, then David's up. Number 3.
Yeah, number 3, and I think that this is resolved. I think the contract is good. I would just like to have sexual orientation and gender identity added to the list of non-discrimination. And apparently they have agreed to this. So I just wanted to make that clear. Good.
Yeah, we can definitely add that. And it's also, they sent us some copies of their HR manual and that's covered in pretty good detail there too, but we'll add that to the contract.
Awesome. In that case, I move that we accept the contract for Midwest ATC as provided with the
Second.
With the
change.
modifications. Okay, any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, roll call. Or do
Okay,
you have a
roll call.
second? Yeah.
Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
Sorry, I want to make sure I stay in the right order. Director Hetherington is absent. President Odette,
Yes.
Director Rolfe,
Yes.
and Director Stevens.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to, general manager's report's up high this time.
Yeah, I only had 2 items I was going to briefly mention, and then if there's any questions that any board members have. The ACT update, we've got that up and running, and really all I wanted to say is tell your friends to join. We're trying to recruit members of ACT. We want everybody to join. We've let all the folks that give us their email address that have provided comments. We're sending an invite to them, as well as the 5 or 6 people that sent us a interest email in the prior link that we had on the website. So the first meeting is on the 9th. Later in the meeting, when we're talking about future agendas, you all can discuss who might want to attend that meeting so that we're Brown Act compliant. So that'll come a little bit later. But we're going to have a conversation about community engagement and what we're expecting for the summer of 2021 for traffic impacts. And we're also going to introduce our staff. So the 3 employees that primarily deal in noise and annoyance abatement, as well as community outreach, will introduce themselves, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those things. So it should be a really good meeting. In July, we're going to talk about air traffic control, our tower manager, and some of those topics. So those are in there, and more to come on ACT.
How many people have signed up?
As of yet, none. But it's only been up for 3 or 4 days. So we're hoping to get more.
Gee, I signed up yesterday.
Okay, so you're on there.
Yeah, if you count staff, there's like 6.
Okay. Yeah, general public, I don't know that we've had any yet, but we're hoping to get some, and we're going to be recruiting folks. I know that we're sending things out to.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you have an invitation, like email or anything written up that I could forward out?
Yes, I do. I'll send that
Would
to
you send it to me?
Yes. I'll send it to all of you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, you can send it to anyone that has interest in, that you think might have interest in that. The other thing I just wanted to bring up was the air show, just to let you know that that's, oh, so go ahead, Rick.
If you go to the front page of the website, there's the address of how to sign up, except when you click on it, it doesn't work. I had to copy it and enter it another place.
Oh,
Why don't you fix that?
Yeah.
That was
so
actually on the front page is actually just the flyer, but up on the upper right, there is the link, but in the airport community news, but I can click
Mark,
that off.
when you're reading the flyer, you ought to be able to click on that link.
Yeah, I'll put a link underneath the flyer for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the link I'll send you will take you right to the membership page where you sign up. So that's what you can forward out to everyone, and then we'll improve the front page of the website too. The other one, just the air show. I just wanted to mention that.
Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin, before you go to the air, can I just ask one more thing? Could we get that previous URL, that truckeetahoeairport.com/act? Could we get it to forward to that page? Because if we're explaining this to people, that's a lot easier than explaining the /administration/
Yeah.
And it's not doing anything else right now anyway. So
Perfect. Mark, we can do that, right?
Yes, we'll get that done tomorrow.
thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, so just wanted to put it out there with the board. I sent an email out earlier this week just mentioning that with our change to the September date for the 2021 air show, we're getting more interest from lots of different people that were busy in July, and then in September they find themselves more available. But we are going to have an F-35 demo team here. What's really nice about those military demo teams is there's no clearance fee. They even buy their own gas. We do have a hotel room and a rental car requirement that is within the budget. We will have them coming. It looks like right now, and the air show committee is working through that. But it should be a really fun show this year, and just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that, and we're looking for that on September 11th, 2021. So with that, I'll take any other questions on anything on my GM report.
Anyone? David? Kat? Rick? Okay. I think we're good. Any public comment on the GM report?
No public comment.
Okay, no action item. Then let's move to number 6, Ops and Maintenance Department report. Taxiway A.
Yeah, Dave's just going to give you a brief update on Taxiway Alpha.
Yeah, I just want to let you folks know Q&D construction started on Monday for that project. They're starting into phase 1 at this point, which is the Taxiway Tango and Quebec extension. Making some progress on that. The 5 days that Q&D has chosen for their closure over there to the West area hangars is going to be June 7th through the 11th. That'll be a Monday through Friday. We'll probably have a long day paving on Friday. We'll get the striping down, and then a Saturday morning would be a realistic time for that to be back in service.
How many hangars do you lose on that?
Well, we've got 10, we've got 16. We're probably losing about 35, 40 hangars between Mike, Lima, November, and Papa.
Well, you ought to keep them on schedule, because I've already heard complaints from those one of those hangar tenants.
It's good they're getting noticed.
Doubting that 5 days will be factual.
Well, all they're doing is building a little transition taxi lane. So
I'm just reporting.
I got you. And
I don't have a hangar.
We're going to keep them on track.
Any other questions from anybody on the ops maintenance?
No, sir. Thank you. Any
Yep,
public
thank you.
comment on this?
No public comment.
Okay. Let's go to Aviation and Community Services.
Finance, I think, is next. Is that right?
Oh, sorry. Skipped right over that. Okay, Finance. Thank you.
Hey.
Hi, Kelly.
Sorry for my earlier technical difficulty. I have a different laptop today. Just a quick financial update. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Through the 4 months ending April 30th, we are $131,000 over budget at 4.38 million in revenue. Net income is negative 306, but $326,000 over budget. Definitely catching up on the revenue front. Fuel sales are up on both ends, 100 low lead and jet. We have started doing more spending on our community partnerships or agency partnerships. And again, we have that 500,000 in the mix for the land trust. Just to keep that in mind, I'm going to tell you every month. That's actually for last year. Does anybody have any questions on the April financials?
No. No, I did have a question, but I think it was actually in the bills piece, which was by consent, but there's refunds happening to hangar tenants. What is that? How does that work? There was a lot of them.
Yeah, when they come, they put down a deposit, and then when they leave, they get that deposit back. So we definitely have a lot of people coming and going each month, and maybe not coming in, but it takes time to get that hangar running for the next.
Teresa, 2 of them prepaid for the year and then let their hangar go mid-year, and so they got money back.
It could be a deposit.
I saw those 2. One we know.
Yes, I actually know both of them.
One we all know, and I was surprised to see that.
Well, he's give it up fine.
Interesting. Okay, not talking about that. Not on the agenda.
On the monthly service bills and fees, which I would put in that finance report area, we are working on the reporting function. As you know, that center column that has the description sometimes it doesn't leave us much space to describe what you're seeing. And Kelly and I were talking about this week with Michelle, and we're hoping you'll see some new things there that maybe will help that along so that there's fewer questions on what you're seeing there.
That would be great.
Yep, we're already working on it, and we'll have a new and improved product for next meeting. And then we also, for hopefully next meeting or the one after that, depending on Kat's schedule, but we resurrected the old templates for the internal audit. So I'm going to get some time on the books with Kat, and we will start that up again.
Great. Thank you.
Sounds good.
David, you said you were going line by line on this one.
No, I'm not. I was kidding. I was fearful that the meeting might be going too quickly. So.
Right. To be done by dinner. No, just kidding. Any other board member comments or questions? Head shake is fine.
No.
Okay. Any public comment?
No public comment.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Now, aviation and community services.
Okay, we're on to aviation and community services. We have eight items on this month's report. I want to bring your attention to a couple items. We finished the microsite for the Flight Procedures Outreach initiative, and we had a couple of comments from people that it's looking good. Some of the rework and the changes we made are outlined for the board in the report, so you can see those there. I'm not going to go through it line by line, but we do believe it's off to a great start. We're not going to, it's going to be a soft launch, so we're not going to push that out with a high degree of force behind it from Mark's department, but we will let people know that it's there, and we will start referencing it as we get closer to beginning the first stages of our flight procedures work. And the flight procedures contract update is in as item 2. So I just wanted to bring your attention. If you have any changes or modifications, we welcome your insight on that microsite. We'll make those changes, and then that'll go live June 11th. And then we wanted to talk a little bit on the Truckee Roundhouse Makerspace. The Makerspace has had a really tough 18 months with COVID, and their membership-based model was really reliant on having people come in, having instructors come in, and they were doing really well until COVID hit. And so after they requested a rent deferral from the airport in the amount of approximately $16,000. They've had a difficult time trying to collect the funds to pay that back. And so we wanted to bring that to your attention because that is due in August. The face value of that deferral is due in August. And we would propose from a staff perspective that we extend that 12 months, potentially 24 months, and enter into a workout discussion with the Truckee Roundhouse Makerspace people and give them a little bit of breathing room to work through that. They also had a rent increase. We did apply per the contract, per their lease, as is specified in their lease. So we just wanted to see, get the board's temperature on working directly with that tenant as they're facing a difficult period here from the COVID, the fallout from COVID and their membership. They are getting classes resumed. It looks like we're moving into the orange tier, and then obviously the 15th of June, we're going to have a lot more capacity in that space to resume classes and get people back in there. So we just want to talk a little bit with you tonight about that.
Well, I think you should defer it. After all, people couldn't come in there and therefore weren't going to pay monthlies. That kind of affected their revenue.
Okay. We believe that would be your the direction you would go. We just wanted to make sure that the board had full visibility on that, and we brought that to you. So we'll go ahead and head that direction. We'll give you an update next month.
Oh, nope, I'm not done
I'm sorry.
on this one, and I'll go last. David or Kat, do you have anything to add?
I've got a few things on item 8 here. The first thing in item B of this, I was one of the ones that said that the microsite was great. I think it's extremely well done. I think it's really going to serve its purpose super well. Congratulations to everybody who was involved with that. And I hope that that is an inspiration to us in reworking our main website, that we can do something like that is so modern and efficient and attractive and functional. So that's the other thing. The other thing I wanted to note in that the biannual runway utilization report, item C, kudos, I think, are in order for our tower personnel, because that now we're looking at data, and I'm glad we've got that data, but that data is showing that the use of runway 29 is dramatically down by comparison to the runways that we're asking people to use. So I did not want that to go by without recognition of that, because we've had so many conversations about that in the last half year, or maybe beyond that, when I got here. So I'm thankful to Director Hetherington for pushing to be able to get that report, and now that we've got data from that report, I think credit is deserved where it's due, and that's there. On item C, the noise abatement procedure test, I am a little, I talked to Kevin briefly about this. I'm a little concerned about the concept of a straight out from runway 29, because I'm not sure that that's not going to make things worse for Martis Valley Estates than they're already experiencing there. So I just want to go, I'm not going to discourage anybody from doing whatever tests you want to do, but I'm hoping that if we do go that route, that we've got a real good reason for going that route.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And we can talk offline more, but I do have some concerns myself, and I had extensive discussions with David Vanquist and Mark about it as well. We are facing down the potential of having a new certified procedure in that neighborhood, and so we didn't want to create confusion in looking at VFR and IFR procedures overlaying on top of each other, one being voluntary and one being mandatory. So we talked a lot about that, and we tentatively agreed that if the board wanted to see us do a pretty low impact test, we would discreetly collect the data and really just try and look at the initial response from the data, both comment, overflight, turn radiuses, and different types of aircraft. So that was our intention. I'll call it a small test, but that was essentially what we wanted to try and do.
Okay, great. And then the last thing I wanted to say, and this was kind of a footnote in there, and it sounded kind of a little bit cryptic in the staff report, but then I've looked into it, and I think it's worth mentioning the part that talked about Mark Covey and
I was going to ask that too.
It's a great story. Apparently, a pilot and two of his family members were on their way to Boeing Field coming in from Arizona, and they stopped in Truckee for a fuel stop. And just to not make the story too long, credit goes to our tower manager, Larry Finney, and also Mark Kobe. Larry apparently first notified Mark, who is our pilot outreach coordinator, that this pilot was having a problem reading back his IFR instructions. He didn't seem to be completely on his game. He departed and his door for the aircraft opened. And it just, to make that long story short, after Larry reported that to Mark, Mark went out to the tarmac, met with the pilot, and ultimately convinced the pilot that they needed to spend the night in Truckee. So there was a problem with the airplane. The pilot had that, we've got to go. And Mark convinced him otherwise, which I think was what we were talking about, that the CAT will remember the Safe Haven project that we had in ACAT, or just that ongoing concern about pilot welfare. Kudos to the tower manager, Larry, for bringing that to Mark's attention, and kudos to Mark for going out there and pushing for this guy to recognize that he should not be flying his aircraft that day. So congrats.
Yeah, well done, Mark, and yeah, it's a good job.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. It's a huge one win and one save in that type of activity is tremendous. So thank you again to Mark.
If I could just add real quick, it's also just illustrates, for the community that may wonder about this, it's why we also invest in flight experience and flight training for our staff, so that they can identify and see those things and help pilots understand their options, and particularly when maybe it's not right to fly. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Kat, anything from you?
Thank you for explaining that story. I was curious about that too. I would like to advocate for the Roundhouse rent deferral. I've just known them as a really good nonprofit that really just from the ground up has done a lot of things right, and it's not their fault, and I would love to see us continue to support them. As far as Aim High, I'm curious what their budget looked like last summer, if they couldn't have in-person instruction, and how that 30,000 sort of fit into what their expenditures were. I've had a lot of experience with Aim High. When they first came here, they came to Queen of Hearts for a grant, and I was on the Excellence in Education board at the same time, and they came to us for a grant. And so my guess is that they're going to come back after this year, and I would just like to see how they spent that money last summer.
Kat, would you like Mark to reach out to the board with some info for you? Get back to you on that?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Those are the only comments I had.
Okay.
Kat, I'm happy Alec Lee, the director or executive director of Aim High, he did give a report that was presented to the board last October explaining how they modified their program. I will get you a copy of that, and I'm happy to report back to the board. But they did do all virtual classes in summer 2020. And this coming summer, they're going to do a hybrid, virtual and also outdoor camps. And then this coming fall in October, Alec Lee will be coming back. As you say, I'm sure he's going to be reporting on the benefits of the partnership with the airport district and the school district, and then I'm sure he's going to be seeing if there's interest in ongoing support.
Right.
I think he's retiring.
Yes, he is retiring.
Really?
Yep. But he retired a couple of years ago too. We'll see how long that lasts.
They're not shy. They will be back.
No, they're not shy.
No, and they have a big ask.
That's right.
Yeah, the Mark Covey thing was super cool, and it was cryptic the way it was written. So thanks for bringing that up. And then Makerspace. And someone, I don't remember which one of you guys put it in the report, but you said something about them wanting us to forgive it, and they were willing to trade something for that.
That might have been me. Hardy, you could step into that. They originally were hoping for just a forgiveness of the rent, and I kind of felt like that. I think we all agree that they're a wonderful community asset. We want to try and make them successful, but it might be premature to go that direction yet. Was my thought, and that if we deferred it out another year to let them fully recover. One thing they did offer that we could consider, and we may go back and talk with them and bring you back a formal proposal, is that they can offset some of that deferred rent for community service, for things that they could do in the community with the schools or whatever, to work that off with their volunteers, similar to how we do other vendors around, or other tenants around the airport. We haven't finalized a proposal on that, but that's one option that we've thought about.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and because we have graduated lease agreements with those nonprofits in the warehouse, there was, from staff's perspective, at least a concept that we've already extended quite a bit of subsidy to those groups, and then again, compounding that with the service credit for payment would be duplicative. And we just want, we could talk about that further, but those graduated lease agreements are, they're I think quite generous in many respects, and we've definitely given a lot of seed funding to the group and put a tremendous amount of money directly into the warehouse. So we just caution the board too, and understanding that if we applied it to one tenant, we would most likely have to apply it to all the nonprofits that we work with.
Okay, I'll take your guidance on that one, but we need to do something for them. I'm totally in favor of pushing it out at least a year and then talking about what's next.
Yeah, we'll come back with a formal, here's what we're going to do, for the board to take a look at within the next month or two.
And they are coming back. They are coming back alive. They've just announced today 2 youth summer camps, July 19th through the 23rd, and then August 2nd through the 6th.
For what?
They are calling it, it's a kids maker camp.
Yeah.
Dates announced today. It's an upcycled maker lab. It says students will learn basic construction principles and how to safely use tools, all while expressing their creativity and learning problem-solving skills. Instruction includes the use of hot glue guns, drills, drivers, fasteners, wire, hand tools, sewing machines, and hand sewing tools.
2 of my children did those. It was really good.
I'm sure. We need some auto shop and wood shop, since we don't have those electives anymore. Anyway, any other comments from the board? Questions?
No.
Any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. Looks like a lot of you put energy into that report. So let's go to action item number 9, Tahoe Forest Hospital District land lease.
If I could, I'll just introduce this item. I was approached a few months back by the hospital district that had interest in a land lease of our property on Soaring Way. So basically what I indicated to the hospital district is, if you have a proposal, bring it forward, and we're happy to consider and look at it. They have come up with this proposal. It's not something that the airport district has authored. I did have a chance to review it and gave them a few comments. But you have it in front of you. It's a letter of intent. So it's just an option. If we sign this, we would be moving forward with exploring a proposal with them. There may be things that we want to add. For instance, do we want to put an RFP out to see who else might be interested in it for land leasing? But as you go through the agreement, you can see the various things that they're requesting. They are looking initially for 4 acres so that they can build a hospital, or it's an urgent care / medical office building, to serve our local community within the airport district. Then they also were hoping potentially to consider options on essentially the rest of the property that we have for non-aviation on on Soaring Way. So in the staff report, I provided some basic information about our property, dealing with, lease rates from the end of 2013, early 2014 appraisal that we did, things, related to airport land use compatibility, the master plan, entitlement applications. And then, at least from a staff perspective, we don't see an issue with exploring this option, with the fellow special district here serving a very similar constituency. But it's really up to the board. We didn't want to put too much staff time into it until the board had an opportunity to look at the request and give us input before we marched any further. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board. I think there's some folks from the hospital district that can answer questions that are on the meeting.
I have a lot of comments.
Okay, let's go Rick first.
All right, if you look at Exhibit B, it's got 4 phases. And phase 1 is what they would lease first, the 4 acres.
Correct.
And then they would have an option to lease all the others in some sort of succession.
They'd have a first right of refusal on them, yeah.
I don't know. The way I read it, it's an option.
It's an option, but the way at least the language in there is that if we'd have to give them an opportunity to lease it if they weren't going to lease it and we had another use for it. And again, this is just a letter of intent.
Well,
There's
let
no
me
agreement
finish
here.
my comments because, I've got 40 years of history in commercial real estate, and this is a great smoking deal for the hospital. They get 20 months to get their entitlements. Now, they probably could need that much. It's scheduled in, with options to extend with no payment. They get a free look at this lease for 20 months to get all their entitlements. Now, given going through the town of Truckee, although it's not in the town, they'll put their finger in it, and going through Nevada County, it could take that long. But you got to realize they're tying up these properties for 20 months. And the other thing on the options, they option these properties without any fee whatsoever, no option fee. And our only way to put pressure on them is to get somebody else to make an offer, and then they have 90 days to decide whether they buy it or not. That's just commercially unreasonable as a landowner, because you have to go find somebody to make you a legitimate offer. And then they say, well, you got to wait here a minute for 90 days to see if the hospital wants it. That's just unconscionable, a way to run options. And again, no fee on the options whatsoever. I would not vote for this deal whatsoever without a lot of changes to it, especially on the option side.
Yeah. So just to clarify, this is their proposal, but this is just a letter of intent. There's no agreement to approve yet. We haven't.
Well, I understand it, but they're asking for, I think, is commercially unreasonable.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing to, if there's board interest in pursuing it, that would be something we'd have to vet out.
Well, my other comment is I think this is a great thing to do for the airport, the town, the locality. I think we definitely ought to pursue it. How many other people have given us a letter of intent on Soaring Way? There was a little fake for the Rayleighs, but they moved across the street into PC3. So what else do we have to do on this property? It's a good way to get revenue to the airport on non-aviation land.
Director Stevens, if you don't mind, my name is Dylan Crosby. I'm the Director of Facilities and Construction for the hospital district. And I just want to jump in, and of course our document here, our LOI, is purely to express our interest in terms we thought reasonable. It's been a pleasure working with Mr. Smith on this, and going further, if the board moves to approve us to negotiate further, we're happy to make reasonable accommodations so it's a fair deal for both parties. And I agree. I think this presents a great opportunity to really service the community and both of our districts. And happy to answer any questions if you guys have any for us.
We'll
Again, I think
it's
a great use, but I think your terms aren't as reasonable as you think.
I appreciate that.
Anything else, Rick?
No, I've gotten rid of my heartburn on this. I actually
Okay.
had fun because this is my business.
Yeah, and I totally trust and appreciate your judgment.
Yeah.
David, you're up.
The only thought, I mean, I had some questions that I spoke to Kevin about and got some clarity about that were just informational thing. From a strategic perspective on this, we're talking about 30 years plus options beyond that. And my only concern is, do we or might we put this out, advertise that the space is available? The demographics in our region here at Truckee at the lake have changed considerably because of COVID. A lot of people are here from other areas. There might be other medical, whether it's Sutter or another organization that might be interested in having a facility up here, thinking that they might have other or enough of a member base or patient base here to do that. I think as custodians of that land, I think it would be wrong for us to enter into an agreement that basically continues the monopoly that the Tahoe Forest Health has on the area now, especially knowing that we're giving away some of the few areas where another facility could do something. I personally am a fan of the hospital, so there's nothing about that. It's just that I think that because we're talking about something, we don't have a lot of land opportunities up here for something like that to happen. It might be worth the airport advertising this, making it clear that we are looking into doing this lease before we enter into a contract.
Kat? Comments? Questions?
Well, I just think back to when the cancer center was built, and I guess it was it a bond measure? I'm trying to remember. It was right when I moved here, and then then it sat mostly empty for many years, and so I am concerned. First of all, how it's going to get paid for. Is it going to go out to a bond measure again that could not pass? Because I think a lot of people in the community weren't too happy about how the cancer center raised funds. And second, is there a need? Is there really a patient need for that space?
So we have no intent to go for another bond. We plan to finance the deal or pay for the deal directly from district funds as is.
Okay.
The need is a great question. So in 2015, our outpatient basis was around 50,000 visits. And this year, our outpatient basis is exceeding 100,000 visits.
Yeah,
So we have a dire need to really expand our outpatient services, which we intend to use this building for, to really meet those healthcare needs of our communities here.
Okay, thanks.
If I could jump in, I'm Judy Newland. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. So if I could address a few items. We have been involved and engaged with our community regarding our master planning. And one of the things our community has asked and our region has asked is that we expand our services outside our current location. We recognize that all of us recognize the growth that is happening in the Truckee area. And we do have I call it the east side of Truckee by the airport district, and the opportunity to, meet those needs of the community in that area and people not having to come across town or through town, trying to support, again, services just not in one location of healthcare, but in most locations. And recognizing that we're a rural area, we have as a district really driven to support the region. We look to try to offer services per the request of the community. And when this site came up, we have been looking at other alternatives, but this just seems such a great partnership between the district and another district to support the community. So that's sort of why we reached out. We do have a need to increase our services, as Dylan spoke to, our increase in volumes, our increase in patient care, and really trying to get outside our current location, but other areas of the district.
Judy, can I just ask, I mean, you realize this is in a flight path. I mean, and there will be aircraft noise. There will be, and I wonder about like the suitability for a medical establishment like this. Is this going to be a problem for patients who are convalescing, trying to get rest and all that, to be hearing aircraft flying overhead all day?
Well, the intent of this location is not overnight stay. So we would look for, an urgent care, primary care, specialty services. So it would not be a location we would have people spend the night. Okay. And then I would defer to Dylan regarding the building and being able to protect that sound.
Yeah, we talked with Kevin about this a lot, and being in that compatibility zone D, we feel that we can mitigate the noise with our development to meet those needs of our patients.
Okay.
I think the hospital has substantially better strength than when that bond issue was passed. Kat, this hospital is in very good shape, and doing a 50-year ground lease, which is what this is, it's 30 plus 210 options. I couldn't get it financed on a 50-year lease. It's a problem on a ground lease, unsubordinated ground lease. So you need a strong organization to do it. And I'm a big fan of Tahoe Forest Hospital. They saved my life on March 24th in the ER.
We're glad you're still here.
Yeah.
So am I. I'm still here to torture a few of you.
Question about the map. We've talked about a lot of things on this, and one of them was a sports field or even a training facility for the fire department, right? Are we talking about the same strip? Right on Soaring?
The fire district training facility is a little farther to the west. It's that little triangle. It's on the first map, Exhibit A. It's that 3-acre kind of triangle-looking piece. That's where that would go. The hospital district's more looking at pretty much everything that's vacant that we have on Soaring Way.
11.7 acres. Is that what that's what it is?
That's about what it is. Yeah, just under 12.
No, I just read it.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the extent of my questions. My commentary is I think it's a really good compatible use. And I hadn't thought about what David said, which is going out, to others for competition. The insurance thing, you have to have a Blue Shield, Blue Cross to go there, right? My mom moved out of town because she couldn't use her insurance. So that's neither here nor there, but that's a thought as we go forward. I'm all for it. I think it'll also serve my side of the world, the lakeside. And getting into that downtown spot where you guys are right now is a pain. So much traffic. It's 20 minutes further than where this would be from my house. So I don't know if that gives you what you need, Kevin. What are we?
Yeah, so there's two things the kind of two action items I'm looking at here. One is that the letter of intent seems okay as long as we understand that some work needs to be done on the options section, that we need to work through that. But actually engaging with them to come up with a proposal to bring back sounds like that might be okay, which would involve signing this agreement. The second one is that before anything is done, we should put out an RFP just to see any other interest. That was the other comment that a couple of you commented on. Similar to what we did when the grocery store was trying to move from one side to the other, come over to ours, we did an RFP to see if anyone else was interested before we negotiated with someone, and no one was. So we did some negotiation there, but we could put out a 30-day, notice that says this land's available for leasing. Anyone that has a proposal come forward. So those would be the two things I would see. RFP.
If you go out for 30 days, you would do it at any use, not just hospital use.
Yeah, just
medical use.
You'd put it out for anyone that had any interest in leasing it, and then we've got one proposal from the hospital district. Is there anyone else? So, and it could be other public agencies. It could be, we could do it either way.
Would 30 days be sufficient for something like that?
all we'd be looking for is a similar letter of intent to negotiate. And I think people can put that together in 30 days. I think that's what we did last time. It was 30 or 45 days.
If I could just speak to, again, the hospital's interest, I appreciate there may be other services that are interested in that. I just ask that, again, in a small rural community, I think competition in healthcare or in any care can be some benefit. I just ask again that as partners in the district and the services and the joy that we have had in providing healthcare to our communities, those that are underserved and those that need the care, the hospital has always had an open door. It's interesting over time. I know that people, speak about the expense, et cetera. But again, remember that people can put a space in or healthcare in, and they don't necessarily have to have everybody accepted to come to that space. The district has always committed to serving those that have insurance, serving those that don't have insurance. And if by chance you choose to have somebody come in that is a different entity, you may find that they don't have to serve everybody. So just please think about the community, the need for healthcare, the opportunity to make sure that we provide that healthcare, that growth. I believe the district has been committed, has shown its support of the community, both in the Truckee and the region, even outside of it. We have people coming to the Cancer Center outside of it because of the excellence. We'd like to continue that excellence. We believe we have that excellence and would like you to be thoughtful about as we are thoughtful about the care that's provided here and who provides that care.
Yeah, Judy, I just wanted to reiterate, for me, the perspective that I'm coming from is that we're making a decision on behalf of a community that will last longer than any of us will last. So I think that I like to know, with regard to my public officials, that they are thinking in terms of what's best for the community and not necessarily taking a preference on a particular vendor in a situation. Like, even though clearly we're all fans, I would just feel better entering into that contract with you if we knew that after 45 days, for example, that there was no better option, because that way we can take that to our constituents and say we offered it and nobody else came forward. That's just where I'm coming from on it. If we offered that and we ended up in a negotiation with Tahoe Forest Health, I'd be thrilled. I think it'd be great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I second that emotion. Kevin, I have one last quick question for you. Is there any airfield or hangar opportunities that we are giving away if we do something like this?
Not on this location. Our airport master plan has this property as non-aviation. So it's already designated in our master plan for non-aeronautical. We have ample locations around the airport to build hangars for the next, I would say, 100 years, literally.
Oh yeah, my other comment, David, I'm going to be here in 50 years. I'm not as old as you. Okay, so I'm in support, and what's our action item here?
I guess maybe a procedural.
I know we need public comment too.
Oh, if I could add just real quick on this, it's probably, if the board's intent is to do an RFP just to see who else is out there that's interested, it might be something that we'd want to do that first, whether it's 30 days or 45 days. Both those numbers have been thrown out before we enter into, before we start negotiations with with another party. We could run them both parallel, but then we could get in a situation where a couple other notices of intent come in, and where we've already started down the path with one.
I agree. You should go out with the advertisement of your 30 or 45 days immediately, and then see what happens.
Do you need a motion for that, Kevin?
Yes, I would take a motion on that, and then, yeah. And I think there's public comment, though, we were going to do.
Yeah.
There is public comment. In general, it looks like we are in support, but we want to cover our bases. You guys agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's have some public comment and then a motion.
Yep, so this was confirmed to be read aloud. Greg Zerbel. The cemetery is going to run out of room as we are down to about 10 to 20% of our space. The buried would not mind the airport noise.
Okay, any other public comment?
No other public comment.
Okay, I know the sample motion isn't what we need. What do you need, Kevin?
I think,
I move that we take this property and ask it for interest in developing on an unsubordinated ground lease. I think you ought to be pretty clear. And you can tell them it's 11.7 acres and show the locations, et cetera. My only question, I don't know whether I ought to do 30 or 45 days. I'd like to get moving on it. So my motion is 30.
Is
that a second?
Yeah, that was a second.
Okay, roll call.
all right, roll call vote. Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
Director Hetherington is absent. President Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Can I add just one quick? Are the rest of you okay if I work a little bit with Rick to have him review the posting? All right.
Yes,
Get
please.
nods on that. Okay, perfect.
I don't even know what unsubrogated means. Like,
Unsubordinated. You don't get
There
a
you go.
loan and put the loan, have call on the land. That way the landowner could lose his land. Not good. Unsubordinated.
All right. Rick and I will get something ready and get it posted soon.
Unlike your
Okay.
mortgages.
Yeah.
They're secured by the land.
They are secured by the land. I think, in general, I mean, while I appreciate what you said, David, and agree, as our duty, these are our people, and I would love to do it for them if we can.
Agreed.
Can I just
All right,
comment real quick? Rick, I just want to thank you for the 30 days. We are in need of adding urgent care space and other services to our community. So we don't have this opportunity in 30 days. We do understand that may change, we may not, that we can look at other land opportunities. So thank you all for the 30 days.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
You ought to meet with me privately and talk to me about my theory on options.
All right.
Good luck.
Okay.
I'm in your system.
There's all sorts of laws that says she can't look up your number. But anyway.
Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we up to the annual audit presentation?
We are. Turn that over to Kelly.
Always my favorite of the year.
Everyone's favorite. We are done. Yay. Thank you to everyone at James Marta that helped get this done. It was awesome. Everybody I worked with this year was wonderful. We really appreciate all their help and everything that they do for us. And with that, I will turn it over to James to give you the presentation.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, working through COVID, we already had systems set up to be able to work remote, and that really helped clients. But it was also some clients had to, put things in electronic form. So it was a really smooth process. We appreciate it, and we like to always remind you we're here year round for questions and available because we're not just here just to check numbers. We want to be a resource to you. So. I want to go ahead and just share my screen and do a PowerPoint just to walk you through the basic financial statements. And there you go. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Very good. Okay, so the audit is really an important part of accountability. You get tax money, you get federal money, you have community members to be responsive to, and so the first part of the accountability is really your staff to you as the board, and then you as the board and the staff out to the community members. The audit report is an unmodified opinion, so that's the best the auditor gives you. You should first look at that when you look at an audit, and then the next place I think there's after that is the part that's written by your staff. That's the management and discussion and analysis section, and it's a great place to find out how you did during the year. Did your financial position improve or deteriorate? The principal reasons why. You do have funds that come in at different times or different capital projects, and so this is a great place that's more readable than the standard footnotes there in the financial statement. Those are all required notes, and this one is required also, but it helps you understand what happened. Then we have a report that we issue on internal controls, and we have no deficiencies. So an audit is not just looking at the numbers. We actually need to look at the system that produces it, the controls in place, to see if it's reliable to base our audit. And then since you receive federal money, we have to be accountable to them. So we have to we have a compliance report on each major federal program, and that's on page 38 of the report. And we do not have any findings in the current year. Doesn't mean we don't look. You're doing a good job. Your organization has always kept controls, made them very important, and have been responsive, and so we don't have any findings. The financial results: the total assets for the year, $67.4 million, an increase 2.6 from the prior year, and that's because of capital asset additions. The liabilities are $12 million, increase 830. That's it. You have increases of payables. You did have some payments down of some loans, but most of it's driven by the increase in the pension liability to the CalPERS. And then your total net position is $55.5 million. This is out of the management discussion analysis section, and this is the financials that show 3 years in a row. It's good whenever looking at numbers to get perspective. And so what we see is you see a basic strengthening in your net assets. You went from 54 million to 55 in 3 years. So not real strong, but you see the assets go from 65 million to 67 million. And so that means you've been putting your resources to work with the capital assets. So most of your assets are your plant, your buildings, and property and equipment. So on the income statement, your operating revenues are up $66,000. Hangar rentals are up $138,000, and airside operating rentals are up. Revenues are up $221,000. Non-operating revenues are down $55,000. So most of that is really driven by the federal grants, but your property taxes have increased based on increased values. So that's a big driver. Looking at your expenses, so your financial statements are broken out different than it would for an enterprise, a business. And so we do show operating, and then we show non-operating. And so from operations, your operating revenues don't really cover your total operations, and that's why you have the in-feed of the property tax revenue. And so you actually have a loss just regular from operations, but then with the tax funds, you have a net change in net position this year of $1.7 million. So if you look at that 3 years in a row, you've had, and so that's okay. Sometimes you bring in funds, you hold them for a while, and then you spend them in a period that's different. There's not always that matching. But once again, we do see a strengthening of your net position. So this graphically is showing your net position. So that's if you take your total assets and subtract your liabilities, you see it had been strengthening. It's kind of flattening off, but most of your assets really represent property and equipment. And then so you could see the assets here. So the assets have grown, but you're kind of flattening. And then down here we show the liabilities. And then your capital assets, and so most of you can see the depreciable assets have been increasing, and then your work in project, as you do the projects, you can see them down here. And then the land's been flat, right? You haven't been adding more land. So the audit is a critical process, and so we do critically look at compliance. We look at controls. So in conjunction with the audit, we also issued a report. It's called Communication Those Charged with Governance. And so auditors need to do that because, some entities like Enron and WorldCom, they changed how they did accounting and made things look good or bad. And so we have to tell you if they changed how they accounted for things, and they didn't make any changes. A number of years ago, there was a change. We had to show the pension liability. So that's an example. There was no significant difficulties during the audit. The only adjustments that we did during the audit is to adjust the pension liability. We have to wait till the actuarial information comes in and we assist with that. There's no disagreements with management and no other significant audit issues. So a very clean audit. Management recommendations, we didn't have any in this year. So, and no internal control findings. And so overall, you did a great job. And so we really want to thank especially Kelly, because she has to just really bear the brunt of all of our requests, and auditors ask for a lot of information and backup, and so we really appreciate her and the rest of the team in helping us. So with that, that's the audit presentation. Are there any questions?
No, you want to turn off the screen share?
Yes. Rick is talking.
Rick, you're muted.
Yes, I am. Do you have any concerns about the pension liabilities?
Well, my concerns is more globally that the pension estimates that they had were pretty rosy. I've always watched it for over many years since the 90s, and they were really rosy as far as their estimates of what the earnings were going to be. Earnings actually have been really good in the last couple years and catching up, but the concern really is for agencies that have lots of employees as compared to yours. So school districts or cities or things like yours that most of their costs are wages, they have an imbalance of what their pension costs are. And so you are sitting in a better position that your salary and pension costs as related to your overall budget is not as much of a imbalance.
What I was questioning is, should we pay down our liability over time? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. So I have, I gave a presentation a couple of years ago up at Tahoe, and I said how you could save $1 million? Pay your pension liability early. If you have the resources, if you're limited in, so I have some entities that are earning, if you're earning 2 or 3% and they're discounting their pension liability at 7%, if you pay it off earlier, then the money you saved is like earning money. And so I have had a number of clients have done that. And so that would be a good thing to look at. So it's like if your mortgage on your home was 7%, right? And you have money sitting in the bank earning 2%, you'd like, well, if that money is, I don't need it for liquidity, then why don't I use it to pay down that mortgage? And so I would consider that.
And tell me again what the liability is right now.
It's about 2.9 million, is that right?
I have to just look it up.
We have the CalPERS. They've done well because everybody's done well if they've been in the stock market. But there have been times where they were not earning what they proposed.
Well, yeah. So when it is $2.9 million, and the thing is, I've got some governments that they can, most governments can't invest in the stock market, and so how do you compete? In the long run, they should do better than you. So in the long run, if you have assets, it's better to put it over there to pay it off. Because if you pay it off, I did a calculation for an entity a number of years ago, and if they paid, their pension liability was $1 million. But if they paid it off early, they would save $1 million over 20 years. So there's two things. One, they earn at a higher rate, and so when you put it over there, actuarially, they'll give you a benefit on that pension calculation, but in real earnings, you'll earn right away on those dollars. It's just like putting away for your own retirement.
Kevin, I'm not suggesting we write them a check for 2.9 million tomorrow, but I think we ought to, maybe work this over a few years and pay it down.
Yes, and you have options, and so looking at your cash and liquidity, I wouldn't say that you have kind of extra funds right now to do that. You should really do some like longer term forecasting, and you could say, hey, should we throw 500,000 at it, or just make a plan, put it at it.
Make a plan. What do you mean we don't have money? We have lots of money.
Well, when I look at it, I look at how much cash you have and look at what potential projects, and on its face, I don't know that you have in excess. I don't know what your future plans are. You have $5.8 million of cash, and then you have your investments of $1 million. Oh, and $1.5 million. So you have to look at what is your capital plans in the next 5-6 years versus your inflow. So you need to do some cash flow budgeting before you spend those assets.
Yeah, we're going to do our unrestricted net asset exercise, and that'll help us, figure out what we have maybe to dedicate to. We did a little. I went to some training at CalPERS on this about a year and a half ago. We could talk more about it. We actually can put it on for our workshop in June if we want to talk about it a little bit. But there are a couple of options available. There's a couple of risks, I think, also to paying it off, of assuming that CalPERS is going to have their act together, for the next 20, 30 years, and we're not paying something off that then comes back at us later with another burden. There's a couple of different ways we can go with this, and we have done a little bit of staff work on it we can present.
Kevin,
Sure.
let's just put it on the agenda for the budget process. I'd like us to think about it.
Sure, agreed.
Make it happen, Kelly.
Yeah, my recommendation is moderation, because it definitely you've got you want to go liquidity issues.
Yeah.
But that's a great question. In fact, I have a school district in Oregon that they actually issued tax-free debt to pay off their bond, their pension liability. They paid off over $100 million worth. And so if you're going to earn an average of 6 to 8% and you're issuing debt at 2 to 3%, I like those margins.
We're not going to borrow to pay this off.
No.
Let's discuss it.
That was a big entity, and they had a big number.
Thank you for your report.
You're very welcome.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have questions or comments for James? David's no. Kat? Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
I would like to say, when I look at numbers and tables, my eyes start to get crossed. And I really like that descriptive part, like pages 4 through 12 or whatever. So I thought that was really well done. And it's put everything kind of in a nutshell. And also shout out to Kelly for all the work you did. I know it was a huge job.
Well,
Agreed. Thank you.
I move to accept the audit and draft financial statements for the calendar year ended December 31, 2020 as prepared and presented by the auditors, and recommend issuance of the final report.
Second.
Okay, before roll call, we need public comment.
No public comment.
Okay. Roll call.
All right, Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
Director Hetherington, absent. President Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you all for making us look good.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. Great work.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thanks, James. And tell your whole staff thank you from me as well.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to our auditor, too.
Yes. All right, so what do we have? PI 303?
Yeah, so this is just periodically we pull out our policy instructions, particularly things like procurement, just to make sure everything's relevant and up to date. We did have a couple of modifications that we were proposing to the board. I'll talk about those in a second. But the primary changes that we made is changing some of the job titles. The old version had some job titles that modified and changed, and so we updated those. Didn't really change any of the approvers. It's similar to what it was before, but fixed those job titles. The biggest things that we're proposing is just to change the amounts for small, minor, and major purchases from what they were 6 years ago. Those are not, as I talked with staff, that was a proposal we had. We're open to whatever the board is comfortable with those small purchase numbers. We'll talk about that in a second. The other thing that we added was just a provision for small claim resolution, as well as reoccurring consulting services. For instance, a good example was when we redid the allocation study. Going out and doing an RFP for that service may not be in our best interest when we have a vendor that has done it 2 or 3 times before and we're looking for consistency. Another example would be the Godby survey. Do you bring in another company to do that when you've got a company that's done it for us for the previous years? It's up to us each year to decide if we're going to keep that person. We can base it on qualifications. If they give us an exorbitant price, we don't have to use them. We can then go out and find someone else, but we added a provision for that, as well as you'll see that one for small claims resolution. But that's what we're proposing, and just wanted to put that in front of the board and get your thoughts, comments, and any changes you might want to make to it.
Rick, you've been first all night. Any comments or questions?
No.
David?
The only comment I've got on here is that $10,000 seems not like a small purchase to me. And it is a 100% increase over the current number. So I don't know. I mentioned to Kevin the other day, I think we've got great people on staff right now, but those people are not going to be on staff forever, and we're defining policy that might last for a while. So I just checked, and it looks like Dave and Hardy are gone. I was hoping to ask them how often their departments are encumbered by the $5,000 limit, and if there really is a need to double that to $10,000 for a small purchase. But I guess they're not here, so I'm just. Oh, Hardy is here. Sorry, I thought I didn't see you anymore, Hardy. I would just like to know what, like, for you as a department head, how often are you stumbling over that?
It comes up for me with IT purchases and technology. Mike Cook and I share some of that responsibility. So it comes up, I won't say routinely, but it definitely comes up twice a month, maybe.
Okay.
And then David, as far as the operations and maintenance side goes, it's starting to creep in a bit more. We're finding the costs of doing business in our area and somewhat where our contractors are coming from, that we haven't kept up, and that $5,000 limit we really feel would benefit us with the amount of effort that we're putting in, and the number of contractors, the length of time to try to get bids. We're kind of cramped with that also. So I felt that we hadn't looked at this. We weren't keeping up with the costs of the area, and would take the board's input. If they think they could increase it, that would be wonderful. If we need to stay where we are, we can work with that.
Okay, thank you both. And the second thing I had, and I realize this is a controversial part of this, is the preference for local contractors. I think probably I can't imagine anybody would disagree with this, but it would be great to hire local contractors. But to me, it's far more important to hire the best contractor for a given job, and that I wouldn't give slack to somebody local just because they were local, particularly if there were more money on it. So I would encourage staff to always seek out the best vendor for any particular request that we send out, and not overdo the preference for somebody local if we feel like the product might not be as strong. That's all I had.
Do we give people some benefit price-wise on bids, Kevin?
So there are certain things in that small category that we only get local quotes on, particularly if it's, under 50,000. If much larger things, we always go out to a wider group. There are some local contractors that, we may not select if they've not provided good products in the past. But we do try and, because we've gotten that counsel from the board before, is to, look locally and find those local ones. But we don't bring people in with a low quality or inferior product. We won't accept that just because they're local. We'll make sure we get a good product, but we always try and make sure the local folks know that we're bidding. And I'll try and be brief. At the end of the policy, there's the local government section, and that's one of the things I think that David's referring to. I don't know that we've ever had to use that when we've gotten local bids, but that that's there. We put that in back in 2013, I believe, but we've never really had to dive into doing that. We're always able to work it out without having to, compete that way.
Okay. Anything else, David?
That's it. Thank you.
Kat, comments, questions?
Yeah, I had some of the same questions that David had about how those numbers were arrived at, and the doubling of the from 5,000 to 10,000, and obviously don't want to hamstring any of the staff if you feel like you can be more nimble with fewer constraints. I think that's great. I would just caution this board about that article that came out in Moonshine Inc. a couple weeks ago about one of our other special districts that's really coming under fire for one of their procurements from their own staff, and thinking that there wasn't enough restrictions around that. And so I appreciate that we have this policy, and I would like to keep it as tight as possible.
It's really whatever. I mean, we as a staff, and we talk about this often, we will defer to the board, particularly with these fiduciary responsibilities, because it's one of the ones you clearly have oversight of. And so we don't ever want to do anything in our procurement that the board isn't 100% comfortable with. And so, if that 10,000 number is too high, if we want to go to 7, or even leave it at 5, we'll make it work. We do have in the small purchasing provision that even though it says that you don't have to go out and get a bunch of quotes and bids, that you do have to shop, and you do have to get a good quality product for the district at a fair price. And so we feel very proud of our record there and work really hard to do that. But it's really where you as a board are comfortable, and we as a staff are going to be perfectly fine with whatever number that is.
So, Kat and David, what are you thinking?
Personally, for me, I felt like I appreciated what Dave and Hardy had said, but I didn't feel like either of them had explained or described a situation that was a big stumbling block. So I'm not sure if it was raised. I would not support $10,000. Maybe if we raised it to $7,000. My concern is I just don't want that the definition of a small purchase to incrementally get so high that we've lost touch with the fact that this is not our money we're spending. So we kind of do want to just maintain controls over it, make sure that everything is as clean and value driven as possible. But like what Kat was saying, I don't want to make life miserable for the managers who are dealing with this. It didn't seem like they were talking about a situation that was insurmountable at this point.
Why not? Why change it at all then, David?
I would be happy to not change it at all, but I'm only one vote here, so I'm
Get
just
tough.
giving. What's that?
Get tough.
Yeah, I mean, if they were to say that, yeah, this is costing us a lot of work time and a lot of effort, and I would support them, but that's not what I'm hearing, and I'm concerned. I think we've got great people now, but this is a policy that will survive these people. So we might, as a board, we might not want to open those floodgates unnecessarily.
Let me put this out there. We don't want you to feel shy about making a recommendation because you think you may offend or staff, we're fine. We've talked about it. We'll do, again, whatever the board wants to do. We down there, we did make one clarification in the highlighted area just to make sure we're all clear that, like, when we are going out and soliciting bids, we're trying to get the solicitations. We're offering it. Please give us a price. And we get that from a minimum of 3, but usually more. And so we just clarified that the solicitation, which was in there before, is all we need to do. And so I think with that clarity, and if the board understands that, we're okay leaving those numbers the same way. We're going to go shop this. We can't force people to give us quotes on things, but if the comfort level right now is to leave that portion the way it was at 5, 10, and 50, we're fine with that. We'll make that work.
I'm good with that as well. So that's 2 of us.
I guess I'm not really stuck on the number so much. I mean, honestly, I can't get a plumber to come to my house for anything I pay him. So, at some point, there's just so much demand because there's so many people. So, does that constrain you by, maybe it should be 7,500 or 10,000 just because it makes it easier to hire somebody, right?
I don't think the airport has trouble getting contractors. I have read on Nextdoor that contractors are asking for a fee to bid projects.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send you a recommendation on a plumber who will come to your house.
Oh, good. That would be awesome.
So we did hear that in my area managers meeting today. The group was talking about this, that we don't necessarily have a problem getting people to do the work, but the projects are coming in way over engineers' estimate. It's really expensive right now to build and to get people to bid on it.
Yeah.
These smaller purchases are a little different. It's like buying crack fill material, and how many bids do you get on crack fill material? But we can do that.
Okay, so where are we? We need a motion to approve, to modify.
Rick, did you have any other comments?
No, I don't. I think we ought to approve this, but not increase the thing from 5,000 to 10,000.
Sounds like a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a motion.
That's, yeah. So are you Rick, just for clarification, are you just talking just on the small purchases or for all 3 levels? Leave them the same.
Well, Dr. Diamond, what do you think? You're the one who's leading this discussion.
I feel like
I'm just supporting you.
Right. I appreciate that. I would leave all 3 levels the same. The rest of it I think is fine. I would just leave the levels the same.
That sounds like a better motion. I second it.
Any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, how about a roll call?
All right. Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
Director Heather, absent. President Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
And Director Stevens.
Yes.
Awesome. One more action item, right? Approval of annual appropriations limit resolution.
I'll turn that one over to Kelly.
Hi, me again. This is outlined in the audit, but this is the official resolution and approval. We did the calculations with James Marta. We are below the property tax proceed limit that is calculated by the state of California. They put out the changes in cost of living factors. There's a bunch of different calculations, but to make sure that the proceeds of tax do not exceed the appropriations limit, and they do not. And then, does anyone have any questions about that?
I do not. Rick?
No.
David?
Nope.
Kat? Okay, so we need a motion to approve, or?
There's a sample motion in there if you want it.
All right. Any public comment on this?
No public comment.
Okay.
Okay, I move to approve resolution number 2021-04 to establish appropriations limit for calendar year 2021 and waive the reading. That's it. It just says requires roll call vote.
I second.
All right.
Vice President Diamond?
Yes.
Director Hetherington is absent. President Odette?
Yes.
Director Rolfe?
Yes.
Director Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ad hoc. Who have we got here? Review and discussion of T-hanger and executive hanger wait lists.
Perfect. So at the last meeting, the board asked us to put this item on to just have a discussion on review and discuss the wait list and how the dynamics of that work, be able to have the board ask questions and provide information. So Jill, I want to thank her for popping in on her vacation. She's on vacation this week, but was able to break away and help us have a discussion here. So really, we just want to open this up. Jill's going to present a little bit of information, and then it's just a discussion item. We can talk about it as much as the board would like. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Jill.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. And I am on vacation, but I love talking hangers so much that I be here. And so, no, I am happy to talk hangers anytime, and I hope I can answer all your guys' questions. And I did put together a little bit of a slide presentation that I think Emily will queue up. And basically, this was brought forth at the last meeting as something that you guys wanted to continue to discuss. So next slide, please. And then next slide as well. All right. And so, we have 227 hangers of various sizes. And when I look at the individuals on the wait list, this is kind of like how I'm breaking them down is, we take, basically the policy is we go by wait list position, but then also how best the next aircraft fits into the available hangar. So where that comes up is I may have a small hangar come up that only a handful of individuals on the current wait list could use at this time based on their dimensions, or I have a large hangar come up and the next guy on the wait list may not, he may be a smaller aircraft, but because we have so few of those hangars and so many people on the wait list needing that based on their dimensions, the larger aircraft may get priority. So that's kind of when I break down the number of hangars we have, that's what I'm looking at is aircraft dimensions as well as wait list position. And then next slide, Emily. So this is just kind of showing, the east side of the airfield and kind of the hangar dimensions and where all those are, and how I look at them based on those aircraft types. And then next slide. And then in my report, you also saw these numbers. There's 39 individuals currently on the executive wait list. There's 96 individuals on the T-hanger wait list. 60 of those have added since April of 2020. And I don't think that, I do think that parallels some of the other trends we're seeing in the region with real estate and housing and other, growth. And then of the smallest T-hangers we have on the field, there's only a handful. There's only 6 on the current T-hanger wait list that, have aircraft that could fit into those dimensions. And then staff did call around to some other airports and surveyed other airports both in the region and elsewhere in California. And the vast majority have wait lists as well, and very similar processes for how they handle the wait list. We do require a deposit for any interested individual to go on the wait list. They have to fill out an application, pay that deposit. We ask them to pay a yearly kind of maintenance or admin fee to stay on the wait list, and that's through that process I'm auditing if they still have interest, if their contact information is still the same, if their aircraft, sometimes in that I get notification that, oh, I sold that aircraft, but now I have this aircraft, or this is the type of, aircraft I'm looking to hangar. So a number of factors can come up through that process as well.
96 is a huge number, 60 added in the last year. Do they all have airplanes? Where are those airplanes?
So I think the vast majority of them have aircraft. Some of them do put their names on the wait list with aircraft to be determined, and those are the individuals that are maybe planning very far ahead, knowing that there's wait lists in a lot of places. I would say that a lot of the aircraft people that currently have aircraft, a lot of them are probably in the Bay Area, somewhere at another airport, and some of the the waitlist individuals do indicate if they have a hangar elsewhere, and so I can bring that information back to you in a more detailed way. Some of them, I would say, won't bring their aircraft to Truckee without a hangar, and some of them come frequently and sit on our ramp.
Okay. Anything else? Rick, David, Kat?
Yeah, I've got some comments and questions on that. Personally, I think that what Jill does with the hangars might be the most complex thing that happens at our airfield.
True.
I appreciate the fact that you've done that. For me, and I'm a pilot, and I'm an aircraft owner, and I have a hangar at the airport. So in disclosure of all that, before I get into this, my main concern is shelter for airplanes. And just like I would not, if we were considering building housing for homeless, I wouldn't consider somebody to be homeless if they have a home in Palo Alto, but just not one here. So when I think of that wait list, I would love to see reflected in that how many airplanes on this list are sitting out in the sun or sitting out in the snow, and particularly that want to be here. Like this is the only place they would go. And I realize because of grant assurances, because of some other FAA, we can't prefer one tenant over another on that. So I understand that is a limitation that we've got here, but I feel like if an airplane is not hangared elsewhere and they want a hangar here, that might suggest that this is their primary home. And as much as I'm not supposed to consider that, I kind of want to consider that matters to me. But like I said, it's also an issue of like, is the airplane resting comfortably in a beautiful hangar someplace else, and they just want a hangar up here for 3 or 4 days a month, when there might be somebody here who lives here full time, whose airplane is sitting out on the tarmac. If we could, I don't know how, if we're legally allowed to get to that point, or if it's practical to get to that point. That would be super helpful to me in really estimating how serious this need is. The other thing that I'll say, and this is just from personal experience on this, our hangar wait list is not an aberration. This is all over, and it's not just in California, it's other places as well. And I think it just comes down to the reality that, look at how much money it cost us to build 10 hangars. We could spend that much money and build 10 more hangars, and that wait list is still going to be huge. We're not going to solve millions and millions.
Or we could build Super Ts for less money, more standard, and it would dent it, but not wipe it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the question would be, are we building hangars for airplanes that live elsewhere who are going to visit a few times a week or a few times a month, as opposed to airplanes that are actually baking or freezing on our tarmac? And to me, those are the ones I'm more, and again, just because I'm an aircraft owner, and it's a safety issue, for having, especially in an environment like ours, to have the airplanes sitting out in the sun, to have the airplanes sitting out in the snow, this affects the airplane. So that's just my thought on this. I would love to go further with this to better understand that, with the knowledge, Jill, that I think that you're doing a phenomenal job on it, and it's not an easy task. Mm-hmm. At the end of all of this weird algorithmic complexity, you've got people pounding, when am I going to give a hanger? When am I going to give a hanger? When am I, and that, so I appreciate it. I just wanted to comment on that. That's it for me.
Thank you. Kat, any comments or questions?
No, this is all very informative, but I don't have any questions.
Okay. Rick, anything?
Pass.
All right. Thank you, Jill. Informative as usual, and enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Thank you guys, and I'm happy to come back and talk about hangers anytime and try to give some more detail with that, and just to add on to that. I do think if you surveyed everybody on the way, you're going to get a variety of answers and stories. I mean, I know there are some that are keeping their aircraft in the bay, but they live here, consider themselves here full time, but they won't move it up without a hangar. And so does that open up something where there is also a wait list? And it is, I think it's a variety of stuff, and trying to, balance what all those needs are. And what it truly boils down to is difficult. But if I'm, my goal is to manage the hangars in such a way that, best fitting the aircraft in the availability the best that we can, so to reduce those lists. So
yeah, I was going to mention,
you're doing a great job.
Really quickly, if I could, Jill spends a lot of time trying to optimize the use of the hangar. So for example, if there's a hangar that's been a legacy tenant who's not flying, and trying to switch them and put them in a hangar that barely accommodates their aircraft, but it does, and then we can get somebody else off the list. Like, a lot of time is spent in the turnover process trying to optimize people that are in true need of, like, as in David said, true need of covering that aircraft. So there is the algorithmic portion that you pointed out is probably the most complex, and I think that's really what takes staff time, and I think Jill does a great job at it. And for the most part, looking at other airports in the region, I think we do it quite well.
Can I, before we leave, I realized that there was something else I did want to ask you, Joe. Have we solved the issue we had before, where we had rented out hangars to folks who were not using them for aircraft? Are they all gone now, or do we still have some of those here?
So the when the kind of downturn in the economy happened and we had a large amount of vacancy, we did lease out hangars for just general storage. Those are all gone. There's no general storage allowed. And then I routinely reach out to tenants, for aircraft documentation. And that's my way of making sure that they have an aircraft, that it's airworthy, that we have the certificate of insurance on file. And our policy, if somebody were to sell an aircraft, our policy basically says they have the rights to hold on to the hangar for up to a year and, meet the aircraft requirement. But during that time frame when they're without an aircraft, we take the hangar back and sublease it out. So basically, it doesn't allow for it to turn into a general storage while they're waiting to replace the aircraft for a given amount of time. So, and that individual may want to hold on, exercise that right for that year, but may never come back with an aircraft. And that's that's our way of maintaining the aviation use of it, even in that kind of period.
Do you have anybody who's got an airplane in the back of the hangar and it filled up with all kinds of other stuff, and they never take that airplane out?
There are aircraft that I don't think move very often, but they are maintained to the standards that we have requested. So it is airworthy, and they maintain it in a way. If somebody has a small aircraft in a bigger hangar, when the right hangar comes up, I would downsize them to a more appropriately sized hangar. Because when we did have a lot of vacancy, you did have some of those situations come up of, maybe this guy has 10 feet of room on each of the wings, rather than 4 or 5. And so we take those opportunities to kind of reshuffle the deck when we can to maintain movement off the list and appropriately fit aircraft in the right size hangar.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Let's go to committee assignments and ad hoc committee reports. Mountain Housing, that's Rick, yeah?
Yeah, there's the county is totally redoing the environmental work on the Dollar Creek Cross and Nahas property, and that's a process that's ongoing. Last night, the town of Truckee heard a consultant's report on 11 projects throughout the town that the consultant was studying with SB2 dollars. Rick Lee was one of them. He made his presentation. I think he made a good presentation. He said his project is aimed at the forgotten middle. Some people call it the missing middle. And he says, we want to house our working people, special districts, teachers, firemen, etc., so they don't have to commute from Reno or Grass Valley. And he says, I'm committed to building these and leasing them for a maximum of $750 per bedroom, which is way under market. Everybody had made a presentation, and now the council has asked for a recommendation from staff, and they'll be considering at the second meeting in June. So maybe there'll be finally something happening. This study has been going on for a year and a half. The lickety-split town of Truckee working. That's the report.
Awesome. Thanks. Kevin, anything to add, or we
go
to the next one? Okay. Agency Partnership Ad Hoc Committee report.
That's David.
This,
Did you want me to? Oh, sorry, that's not David. That's Rick again. But
it's Rick and Kat, but Mark or Kevin have the real report of what you're doing with the TTCF.
Yeah,
I have your written report, but you should know it since you wrote it.
I wrote it. That's right. I get a little confused. The TTCF. So we're meeting with them. We're going to bring you back a schedule to give you the outline for how we're going to run the agency partnership program for the rest of the year. There will be a cycle this year, and we met with TTCF, and they're putting it together. Really excited about that partnership. So more to come on that.
All right, that was quick. And let's see, revenue and cost allocation ad hoc. Is that you, Kat?
No, that's me.
That's the one.
David.
That's the one I thought we were on. Yeah.
They're all using the same words. It's like they all sound the same, don't they?
Yeah.
This is really easy. We were just waiting on the audit to be completed because that's where that was what the holdup was. So the audit is completed, and I'm confident that by our next regular meeting we'll have some data in placeholders by that point. Kevin, do you have anything to?
No, that sounds good. We're gonna have we'll have a meeting middle of June, but things are moving along. Kelly's got most of the information there, just about all of it, and it's moving along.
Good. Okay. Truckee Tahoe Workforce Housing Joint Powers Authority.
Yes. So my report's in there. Just a couple of highlights from our meeting on the 19th is there is a land suitability exercise that's going on, looking for different parcels that have some development potential. And there's actually even a new one that's pretty exciting that I can't give you too much information now, but during the workshop I'll update you as we're trying to vet that out of another opportunity. The other thing that got approved is, as we talked about last time, is the town of Truckee, Nevada County, and Placer County are new members of the JPA. So that's really I know Rick's opinion of that.
I didn't say anything.
So picking up some momentum. I think there's some cool things coming with the JPA, both looking at the rental opportunities and also trying to develop programs for helping people purchase homes, helping employees purchase homes. So there you have it.
Awesome. Hey, about regional GHG collective update.
That's me also. So I have to admit, I'm really disappointed with the lack of progress that has happened here. 22 days ago, I guess it was, we gave Sierra Business Council an outline for what we wanted to do. At least that was the date of the, I don't know how long after that, Kevin, you got to them within a few days.
A couple of days. Yeah. So they've had about 20 days.
We'll say it's 20 days. We did not hear back. The beginning of the week, I asked Kevin for an update on that, and he said he would ask them, and we got an update from them saying we're super busy. When did you want to get going on this? And we're bringing more people on staff. To me, this is a bit of a red flag. I would have liked to have known this 18 days ago that there was going to be a delay on this, because we do have a lot of the other potential members asking about their participation in getting this going on this. So what I would just throw to the board here is whether do we feel like we should be maybe putting out a bid for management of this to see if there might be others who would be interested in managing this and who might be more capable of doing it at this point than SBC with their current staffing levels.
Sure. Nothing gets you more motivated than a little competition.
Yeah, there's a few people I can contact. The other question, does anyone know people that I should contact or we should work with that might be interested in facilitating a group like this? And I'll just also add that we did talk about this in our area managers meeting, and everybody wants in on this. I haven't found anyone that does not want to participate in kind of this collaborative. That I don't like necessarily saying it's going to be the same as the Mountain Housing Council, but it would feel, like that collaborative effort. It's a good analogy, but there's a lot of interest in this to coordinate.
Yeah, so I think, and Kevin, actually, we're eager to get going on this next month. Just to clarify, was that the beginning of June or the beginning of July?
So it sounded like SBC said they were asking if our interest was to get a meeting going in June, and yes, I mean, as soon as possible is the answer. And I indicated that we're going to talk about this and get back to them, but they indicated that they had some staffing issues. They've got some people to bring it on, but that they think that they could get something going here in June. But they didn't give me any more details than that. That was pretty much the whole response back.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What Kat? I'm just curious about what Kat and Rick think of this.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I think it's really heartening to hear that Kevin has had really positive feedback. But I don't know I don't have anybody to suggest to take it over.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like SBC was very interested in it. They say it's right down the alley of what they do, but their staffing levels have not been able to, at least the indication we get, that been able to move very quick on it.
Okay.
And again, my biggest, if I were to critique what was going on, my biggest issue is that there was 20 days of silence before we heard this.
Mm.
And that worries me, that because we do expect this group to be a large group, and so I don't know if that will be a concern if they're managing different projects that offshoot from this group. If that's going to be stalling everything that's coming out, they might just not have the bandwidth, even if they do have the interest in it, and they presumably have the capability for it.
Rick, you look like you have something to add.
I do not. No comment.
All right. Well, that's the end of that report. All right. Let's
before we move on. Can I just get clear? Do the four of you have any concern if we look elsewhere and see if we have other options?
No.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Everybody's pretty busy. I mean, you didn't get a lot of encouragement from staff at the town of Truckee to work on this.
Well, at the time, they thought they were going to be the ones having to do what we're asking SBC to do. I think that.
I think
so
that's
they didn't want to be involved in that. Well,
I think it's about everyone's. And everyone loves the concept, but we need a facilitator, someone that has the ability to spend time putting everything, organizing everyone, kind of like the Mountain Housing Council functions. Because all of us are busy. No one has the bandwidth to organize a big collaborative like this. But there are people out there that will do it. I think what I'm hearing is that the rest of the board is perfectly fine with David and I looking at all options to find a organizer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate? Okay. With the money that we've allocated. Yeah. Okay.
Kevin, you might ask Stacy if she has any ideas.
Yeah.
Stacy Caldwell.
There's also, I don't know how many you know Steve Tashura. That was another person I was going to check in with.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Act attendance by board of directors.
Yes, last item is we have our first ACT forum meeting on the 9th, and wanted to make sure, and I think Josh should still be here somewhere in the meeting, just to make sure that you all coordinate who would like to attend that. The topic is essentially our 2021 traffic expectations, and then community outreach, talking about our programs and who our staff are that people can talk with as they experience airport operations.
I was under the impression that we could all attend, just not talk.
Well, that's what I want to get clarity from Josh on.
Apologies, Director Stevens. That was one of the approaches if we went with the agendized standing committee meeting option. If it was a standing committee of the board, then we would have been able to do that. Because it is completely unrelated Brown Act body, I would recommend that we have up to 2 directors attend, and those directors can be decided at each board of directors meeting before the ACT meeting.
It will be recorded, and you'll get a copy of the recording.
Oh, okay.
So we're not prevented from viewing it, even though
That's
there
correct.
were
Yep.
directors there.
Yeah, and if there's a live stream, you would be able to view the live stream as well. It's just you wouldn't be able to get an official participant in the meeting.
Okay.
Well, I nominate David Diamond to be one of the ones attending since he started all this. I think you should, David. I'm serious.
I Kez, I gotta tell you this. I want more than anything to be at every one of these meetings. If you all don't want to be at this meeting, there was a guy who was a fan of my band back in the day, and who has always wanted to meet me, and he's going to be in Truckee that evening, and I told him I would meet him, but I will figure out a way to reschedule that. But I was kind of hoping if 2 of you wanted to go, that I'd say, okay, I won't go to the first one, but if
No, I'd like to go. You can't leave your fans hanging, David.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean,
he's like, oh my gosh, it's like he's flying here from Texas, and it's a whole anyway. So it was.
So Kat's going. Who else wants to go?
I'll pass. So you, Rick, or Mary?
You don't have to have 2. You can have 2, right?
Well, yeah, that's correct. It's up to 2. We just want to coordinate ahead of time so we don't inadvertently have
I'm
3
just curious how this works. So Kat's going to attend. Kevin, will you talk to Mary? If she wants to attend, I'll look at the tape.
Mary's going to be in the Grand Canyon. It's my understanding
she's there right now, isn't she?
Yeah, but I think what she was telling me is she doesn't come back until the 11th, is what I had. Because she was able to attend the meeting on the 15th. It was right when she got back.
Okay, Kevin, I will attend.
Okay.
That's 2 according to my count.
They're going to be every month. Everyone's going to have a chance to go. All right. So Rick and Kat.
but we can't say anything. We can't talk.
You can, Director Rolfe, if you wish.
Because they're just
there's only 2.
Yeah, because there's only 2 that will allow you to participate if you wish.
Great. Perfect.
And just to clarify that, Josh, it was my understanding that it's really incumbent upon us as directors, when you go to a meeting there, to keep track of the topics you're discussing. And if it's something that is a pending board issue, that's a different situation, because then you're speaking to one another. If next month on the 9th that Kat and Rick are there, and there is a discussion about a board item and they both voice their opinions, basically they're locked into each other for that item.
Yeah, that's correct, Director Diamond. So one of the reasons I think, Kevin, will have this on the agenda going forward standing is just we may run into issues where if a topic is continued for discussion, we won't want to be swapping folks out, because then we're actually facilitating a serial meeting. But as staff, we'll make sure to be on top of that.
Good.
Okay, awesome. That is the end of board committee assignments. So do we have any public comment on this category?
No public comment.
Right. Future agenda priorities and meeting management.
Yeah, so we are confirmed for the 15th from 1 to 4. We'll get you some more information. We'll have some discussion on the 2022 budget and our goals that we all want to accomplish looking forward into 2022. We also will have some time to workshop a couple of items, and I just wanted to throw that out there. If you had any, I have a couple. One of them was the master plan. I wanted to revisit that due to some complications with what we talked about back in March with RFPing those products. So I was going to talk a little bit about that. But anything else that anyone wants to talk about, I can fill it up with lots of issues that we've been talking about. But
Kevin, were you not going to have a public meeting on TTCF?
So the next time we can do that, where we're going to have all 5 board members, is July.
Okay.
We can talk about it here. If we want to put that on, the intent was it sounded like you wanted that on a regular board meeting so more people could participate.
Public attendance we're looking for.
Yeah. So the best option would be in a board meeting in July would be the next time we're going to have everybody together.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. And then on the rolling agenda, just real quick, coming up in June is the aviation forecast. You're going to get a copy of that here pretty soon that you can read. It's essentially the first 2 chapters of our master plan that have been under revision for the last year. The housing count, or the JPA director, Emily Vitus, will be in to do a presentation on the JPA. You'll designate unrestricted net assets. Those are kind of the big items for June.
That sounds reasonable.
I take offense to that, Kevin. I think like there's another big issue item coming in for June. I think that Kat would back me up on this.
Did I miss one?
The proposal.
It was so big you can't remember.
I know. Keeping us in the dark here.
Is it on the rolling agenda? Remember, we just talked about it.
Which proposal? Sorry.
Yeah, the pilot group one. Isn't it on? I thought I saw it.
Okay. I can put that on. I don't know that we had formalized what meeting, but I can put that on.
Well, I think we
You're not going to be there though. I thought you weren't going to be there, David.
No. I will be there I'll be there via Zoom. Sure.
Oh, I thought you said you weren't going to be at the
Oh,
June.
no, you said you didn't want to do it Zoom. Remember? So we had moved it to July.
No, that wasn't the pilot group. That was the land swap.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, that's in July.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy to do that.
Are we going to have in-person meetings? The town of Truckee had staff and the council members last night, but no public.
That's my next item I wanted to talk about. But before we do that, so I just wanted to get clarity. So David, the June board meeting, are you going to be at that meeting?
Via Zoom, I will be, yes.
Via Zoom. Okay, so you'll be okay, I thought you were going to be absent that meeting. Okay.
I will be at that one by Zoom as well. I'll be in New Jersey.
So to jump over to Rick's question, at area managers, I asked everyone who's having in-person meetings. The only one right now that's doing that, aside from like Nevada County, is the town. The town doesn't have the public coming into the meeting yet, but they are doing. Everyone else is doing it via Zoom, probably deep into July, was the indication that they gave. I don't know when the state may change that. This requirement. Josh may know better, but you should maybe briefly discuss what you're thinking for our future meetings.
And before we turn over to the board, I did want to jump in on that. So we are waiting for guidance from the state. The governor's existing executive order, which allows the Zoom only format, is in place as long as social distancing is recommended. While we haven't gotten firm guidance, at least as of last week, some state health officials were indicating that post June 15, there may not be the same social distancing recommendations. So it's possible we may, be forced to have some form of a public location going forward, relatively soon. But there is a fair amount of uncertainty, and the League of California Cities and CSDA and AQUA and others have asked for clarification and potentially a grace period from the governor's office. So we anticipate additional information will be forthcoming in the next couple of weeks, and we'll make sure to let the board know. So I think this is one of those situations where I wish I had a good answer, but it's really a lot of kind of wait and see how it develops.
We're also waiting and seeing for Cal OSHA, because board meeting is a work environment for our staff, of what they pass with their emergency temporary standards, and they are waiting. They're trying to align with the June 15th date. So we have to digest that as well with staff. We essentially have to put our employee group into two categories, vaccinated or unknown/unvaccinated, and guidelines are going to differ between the two groups.
After we're open for public meetings, public staff, everybody, I would still like to say keep the Zoom option in case you're out of town and can attend by Zoom. The call-in thing wasn't really very effective.
100% agree. 100% agree with that.
And that will be permitted under, assuming there aren't any additional, assuming we just go back to the normal Brown Act rules, that'll be okay. The only requirement is you may remember previously when we had the call in, you had to list the place you're calling in from and post the agenda at that location. That same rule would apply if it was a video, a Zoom type call in.
And ask for public comment in your location.
And yeah, correct, President Audit, as well as allow public comment if there's anyone who's interested at the location you're calling in from.
Okay.
So we don't know yet. Bottom line.
Okay,
Thanks, Josh. All right. Is that it? Oh, do we need public comment on future agenda priorities and meeting management?
I have no public comment.
Right. Staff and board member conference attendance reports. Nobody's been anywhere.
No. Starting up again though.
So do you have anything to report, or we just moving on?
No. July, we'll have our first conference attendance report.
Okay. Any public comment on the anti-report that just happened? Lauren?
No public comment.
Great. Any board member announcements? Okay. Schedule for the upcoming meeting looks great. And that's it. We need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, guys.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Right.
Roll call.
Roll call. Vice President Diamond.
Yes.
Director Hetherington is absent. Vice President or President Odette.
Yes.
Director Rolfe.
Yes.
Director Stevens.
Yes.
Record time. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you all.
Good job.
Great meeting. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right. We'll see you in a month.
All right.
Well, on the 15th. We'll see you all on the 15th.
Oh, yeah. The 15th.
Oh, yeah.
A couple weeks.
Yeah.
That's like the day we're getting out of jail. It's party
I know.
day.
We're going to celebrate.
Right on.
See ya.